Each week, nearly a dozen movies are released theatrically. 40 films a month, more than 400 a year. That's a plethora of cinema. Too much cinema. You'd have to be an addict to see all that, but don't fret. We've got you covered. This is CinemAddicts.
Hey everyone, it's another week of CinemAddicts. This is episode number 202. Episode 202, Bruce Purkey on the Google Doc. But I think you put the pod generation after episode 202. Did you put that pod generation just so my eyes could train on that movie that we're going to cover? I don't know. I'm already riled up to talk about the pod generation for CinemAddicts episode 202. Yes, Bruce Purkey. Yes.
I mean, that is your generation, right? Don't they call you guys the pod generation? You're your generation?
Okay, here's the good. This is very bad news. I think right now, just because of that Bruce retort, that might be good news, because right now in his part of the world, he might actually be due to an electrical storm or storm, natural disaster. What's going on in your neck of the woods, Bruce Purkey, that you might be not even in this episode anymore? What's going on?
You probably can't hear it, but there is a lot of thunder rolling right now. Maybe you can't hear it. I don't know. So we may lose electricity. I might be hopping in and out of here. Maybe God will strike me down for my terrible reviews, but we'll find out.
I think God might strike you down for not watching Sound of Freedom.
God is the real
that, Bruce.
Yes, I know.
we have a, look, I'm looking at the intro. There is no blank space for the intro. Let me say something regarding this. I'm going to put the onus on me. My fault for our Patreon listeners on CinemAddicts. I should have done some kind of farming situation, because for this month, we're covering the year 2010. We're spotlighting two films from 2010. One is a choice of, is that my stomach, or is that a thunder or lightning? Bruce Purkey,
it's ASMR. It's ASMR.
ASMR?
Could you hear it? Could you hear it? Yeah, it's a real thing back there.
I'm not going to lie, it's kind of soothing. We should just shut up and listen to the thunder rolling.
Thunder rolls. Okay, thunder rolls. Now, but here's the thing. For August, we have the bonus episode. By the way, goodbye, Bruce. I'm going to say goodbye to you first. Bruce, goodbye. Have a good one, because you're going to be shut out in a second. So you want to say goodbye first before you get shut out, Bruce?
Thanks, everybody. That was a very short show, but hopefully my hair isn't fried. Okay. The little hair I have left is still on my head when it's done.
So Bruce, survives the storm that's happening as we speak right now. He will be here with me and Eric to talk about August 2010. 2010, we have one pick. Right now, it's Eric's pick for this month. What is your movie pick for 2010, Eric? Can you repeat that one more time?
My movie pick for Trash Humpers.
Yes. Trash Humpers, yes. Did you want to pick? Is that a real movie directed by how many Corinne?
As far as I can tell. You have one more chance to
renege on that. Do you have any other pick, or did you do your due diligence and check if it's streaming? Trash Humpers?
It's streaming on. Bruce knows the name of the site. It's streaming on the
archive.org, whatever it's called.
Yeah, one of those things. I don't know if that's legit or not. I think it is, but that's where it's streaming. And I think
it's somewhere out in China or Indonesia. Who knows?
I think the main we'll know all this when we do the episode, but I think the main point of Trash Humpers was to make a movie, put it on VHS, and just kind of put it out there for people to find. And then I think there's like some sort of legend behind it. I don't know how apocryphal that is, but so I guess it makes sense that it's streaming on archive.org.
I would rather listen to the thunder from Bruce's neighborhood than watch Trash Humpers, but that will be one of our picks for the year 2010. The other pick will be a Patreon pick. So again, I apologize, Patreon members listening to this episode. Vote on our Patreon, CinemAddicts Patreon feed. Tell us some of the movies you want to see for 2010. That other movie you guys get to pick. And Mitch Burns from Hollywood Persona, the Hollywood Persona, the Film Vaulters, and the Film Vault. Thank you. He just sent us a message, Bruce Purkey and Eric Holmes, with a list of 2010 films that he wants us to check out. So, by the way, Mitch Burns, you are doing the Lord's work, the Lord's thunderous work for us this month on our CinemAddicts Patreon. That is for August. Before we get to our featured reviews, William Friedkin passed away. Robbie Robertson passed away. This is not a music show. This is a cinema show. Peace to Robbie Robertson. But any thoughts, emotions, insights on William Friedkin's passing? Let's start off with Eric Holmes.
I hate it. He makes awesome movies. According to Diana Van Camp and Anderson, he was an awesome person in real life. Love listening to his interviews. He's got kind of like, let's see, it's him, Chris.
Why do you love his interviews?
Well,
why do you love listening to him?
I love his voice. His voice is so soothing to me. Like even when he gets pissed off, it's like, and I can't even do a William Friedkin impression, although I've been trying. But like, it's like that's not even That's not even a blip. That's not even a zip.
should have done a
That's not even
podcast.
a pimple on the dog's asshole. And like when he talks about that, I was like, oh,
Right.
it's so soothing. Grandpa Friedkin, tell me more. So I absolutely love him, and to hear that he passed is like just really disappointing. Silver lining, he does have a final movie coming out, so we had that to look forward to, but we lost a great one, both talent wise and human wise. So it's sad days.
This is how sad it is for Eric Holmes. When we started our other podcast, Find Your Film, about 3 years ago, I think, I don't know if it was Bruce or Eric's idea. I think it was Eric's idea. Bruce, maybe you can correct me on this. I think our first episode was to spotlight the early films of William Friedkin. This is a person who really means a lot to not just three of us, but millions of cinephiles all across the world. Bruce Purkey, your thoughts on William Friedkin?
Well, I can't say too much more than what Eric already said, other than he just seemed like one of the older filmmakers, kind of like Miller, that are still making, vital and vibrant movies in their later years. And when that happens, you feel like, oh, they're unstoppable. And then they get stopped and you're like, oh, damn it. Why? But, you feel like there's a lot more for them to give. And I'm sure there was. So it's a loss for everybody, especially movie fans. And luckily, we have a lot of great movies out there still that we can watch of his and rewatch. And we watched and talked about some on here. And I think some people are still going back. And I feel like Sorcerer has been totally getting its due in the last few years and being re-loved and recaptured by people. And of course, there's a bunch of other very famous ones that people love forever. So It's a loss.
He also feels like not to compare him to Michael Jackson because they're like night and day difference, but like when Michael Jackson died, it's like my first thought was, wait, he can die? Like when I heard that about William Friedkin, like just the thought of William Friedkin ever dying just never crossed my mind. So when I heard that he died, I was like, that's not supposed to happen. How does that happen?
And they weren't like night and day. They were like ebony and ivory is what they were like.
Yeah, there you go.
Just if you want to lead into some song, go for it there, sir.
Look, within the last couple of years, we've lost William Friedkin, we've lost Peter Bogdanovich. Not only were they great directors, they were huge cinephiles. They were great scholars, and they just really loved cinema. You could tell it from their filmmaking, and you could tell it when they did their interviews. Bogdanovich wrote a whole bunch of books. Friedkin wrote an autobiography. I've read portions of it. It's very engaging. Eric Holmes, to your point, I was looking at a old Friedkin interview from several years ago. He's at the Criterion Closet and he's picking out all these movies that he wants to watch. It's such an old Criterion. Yes, you saw that too, Eric.
Just yesterday.
Criterion video. Right. How old that closet is. He was picking out, I think, DVDs, not even Blu-rays. I think he was mentioning them as DVDs. Do you remember some of the picks that he chose?
Yeah, he was going on about Jules. He picked up Brute Force and was going on about Jules Dassin. And I was like, this is awesome. Hell, what 8.5 was like his big one, which is weird because Citizen Kane would have had to been in that collection. And I know that's like his favorite. That he talks about Citizen Kane like constantly. But and then there was another one. I started watching it last night. Killing of a Chinese bookie. Yeah, I started watching that last night because he brought that up too. I'm like, well, I gotta check that out. So I'll be watching. Yeah, I'll be watching the rest of that by next week as well. It's weird because like all my Friedkin watches since he passed have been movies that William Friedkin likes, not necessarily William Friedkin movies. So I've been, celebrating William Friedkin in a different way than I guess I normally would.
Non sequitur, Eric. Do you like the movie Red Dragon? You're probably saying, what is Greg thinking? Do you like this movie called Red Dragon?
I did. Not as much as Manhunter, but I do like Red Dragon.
Do you think it's underappreciated? Maybe Red Dragon underappreciated.
It's probably correctly appreciated. I don't know that many people.
I'm leading the witness, Bruce. Ready for this? Ready for the connection?
Do it to
it. Is the French connection that he liked it better?
No, here's the thing. The Killing of a Chinese Bookie, which Friedkin mentioned at the Criterion DVD. He likes that movie a lot. Loved Cassavetes. The Killing of a Chinese Bookie about 20 years ago was going to be remade by a Hollywood director. Who is that Hollywood director, Eric Holmes?
Brett Ratner.
Yeah, I do remember him saying that. Or I remember hearing that somewhere.
You do remember. Yeah, a little trivia. But anyways, before we get into a featured, I interviewed, I've interviewed Ratner before, but I interviewed William Friedkin, not one-on-one, but with several times at a radio roundtable. Did a press conference for Blue Chips, interviewed him for Killer Joe. Bruce, Killer Joe, at the end of your career. It's still amazing, right? And I don't even have to mention it on Find Your Film and CinemAddicts, Bruce and Eric, I haven't seen it yet, and that's on me. They've championed Bug left and right. Bruce, thoughts on Bug? Go see Bug immediately, right?
For sure.
My movie's The Hunted. So we have all of these things. I don't know. I don't remember, Bruce, if you appreciated The Hunted as much as I did. I think Eric liked it more than you. I forgot if you liked The Hunted.
I like it as a somewhat cheesy, somewhat awesome, all-in-one action thrillery kind of movie. Yeah.
So it landed for you, and Eric, it landed for you, right? The knife movie, The Hunted. It seemed like an Eric Holmes movie. Do you remember that? Eric Holmes?
Yeah. It just seemed like a really, really tight thriller of that sort. I don't remember what I said about it, but I had to have liked it because I don't think there was a William Friedkin movie I saw that I was like, there's not one I don't like. Like if I'm saying the worst William Friedkin movie, I'm still talking about a really good movie.
Yeah, good times, fun movie. Yeah. Like literally that movie, good times, right? It's a good movie. But look, before we go into our featured films, we haven't mentioned The French Connection. Obviously, you're going to say that. You're going to say Sorcerer. You're going to say The Exorcist. You're going to say all these movies. We're going to say maybe some people might even say Cruising. Right? We mentioned The Hunted. Maybe The Rules of Engagement. That's when he was in Paramount with Sherry Lansing. But if you really love William Friedkin, and I'm not joking about this.
To Live and Die in
Just
LA.
have yourself. What? Oh, To Live and Die in LA. Very good, Bruce. If you haven't seen To Live and Die in LA, just steel yourself for that final act, because you're going to realize how awesome Friedkin is. This is with respect to Michael Mann, I thought this was like an awesome Michael Mann film. I love To Live and Die in LA. But if you really want to push the envelope and enjoy yourself in the cheesy B movie trappings of a William Friedkin film, go see Jade. We devoted an entire Finding Film episode on Jade. Enjoy, please, in honor of William Friedkin, please see that Paramount film Jade. Okay? And get
Jade might be his worst movie, but it also might be my favorite of his.
Yeah, Jade is a 3-star banger. That's a 3-star banger all the way, I think.
That or he did the video for To Live and Die in LA, the music video by Wang Chung. So
yes.
So
I think if you want to see great crap movies, watch Jade and Mulholland Falls like as a back-to-back, double feature.
So
oh my gosh.
I've been looking up The Brink's Job.
Very good, Bruce.
I'm not able to find The Brink's Job. Have you guys seen that, or do you know where to find it?
No, we haven't. And I apologize, Eric. Bruce, should we just make it to some William Friedkin episode and not get into the features? What do you think?
I'm down.
I haven't seen The Brink's Job yet.
We'll need to eventually get into them, but yes.
Or The Night They Raided Minsky's. Folks, William Friedkin, go on your IMDb, go to your letterbox, listen to other cinephiles who are smarter and more articulate than all three of us. Maybe not Bruce, because Bruce the Butcher is very articulate in his movie reviews. And actually, Eric and I have been in cahoots with actually saying maybe me and Eric won't even do movie reviews. We'll just let Bruce Purkey and Bruce Purkey's AI do the reviews for us while we just sip our tea throughout the rest of the podcast. What do you think about that, Eric? You can sip your tea. That is tea, right? You're going to sip your tea?
Yeah.
Your ginseng tea?
Yeah. Mike's hard tea or one of those.
Speaking of hard tea, we might be giving a little bit of hard tea to a couple of these movies. At least I will. Here are our features for this week on CinemAddicts. We have The Pod Generation, and that's our review. Moving forward, we have Operation Napoleon. We have Jules. I apologize, Eric. My screener link was not refreshed. Bruce did not get one. And then finally, last but not least, I have a couple of things to say about Aporia. We have 4 movies for our featured, but I'm a sellout. I am a total sellout. I liked Black Adam. I like sexy big titles because I'm not a sexy big man. I'm a small, inconsequential human being. So when Eric Holmes said he was actually at his local Cineplex, his theater, and he saw this movie called Gran Turismo, I thought, SEO, ching, ching, ching. This is a big movie, Gran Turismo. Eric Holmes, the floor is yours. Vroom, vroom. Does this movie run across, do a couple of laps of cinematic excellence? And what do you think of Gran Turismo?
First of all, Gran Turismo is directed by Neil Blomkamp. I think a lot of people know who he is. He did the, what is it? District 9, District 8, District 7, District 9,
Chappie,
Elysium.
Chappie.
Chappie's his best movie, hands down. I love Chappie. Okay. And then we just reviewed Demonic a year or two ago. I kind of like that one. I think Bruce hated that one, if I remember correctly. When I heard
give 4 stars, I think.
When I heard that Neil Blomkamp was doing a Gran Turismo movie, my first thought was that doesn't make sense. And then I remembered that he was supposed to do a Halo movie, and then now it made sense again. But this isn't like this is basically a true life story of Jan Mardenborough, I think, played by Archie Meduki. Oh, I'm just horrible with the names today. But he was a kid that really liked playing. He was really good at Gran Turismo, the game, like really good. And Orlando Bloom plays Danny Moore, and he decides that he's going to do this contest where, we're going to get all these people that are really good at Gran Turismo, and then we're going to take the top ones of them and then put them through race car training with David Harbour's character, Jack Salter. And we're going to make them real race car drivers and see how, because Gran Turismo is essentially less of a game and more of a racing simulator. I haven't played the latest installments of Gran Turismo, but I used to play it a lot up until probably Gran Turismo 3 or 4. And the game is dry, like, going through trying to get all the licenses and stuff. And it's not fun. It's kind of dull, actually. But it's a racing simulator, so I guess it's supposed to be dull. But anyway, the idea is, let's see how good this racing simulator is. Let's see if we can transfer that to actual racing. And David Harbour's like, yeah, this is stupid. They're playing a video game. You got all the G-force. The cars are going so fast. You got so many G-forces pushing against you. If you get in a crash, you don't hit reset, you probably die or get seriously injured. This is just a terrible idea all around. Orlando Bloom's more of a marketer guy. It's like, hey, come on, man. It'll work. Let's do it. Come on, David Harbour. And so it's basically Jan's rise from really good Gran Turismo player to really good race car driver. And he continues to prove himself as a race car driver, even to the point where the other drivers are like, you're not a real driver. You're a game player that became a race car driver. And so the main conflict is not only is he able to get up to the part where he can be a race car driver, spoiler alert, he does, but can he become a good enough race car driver to where other race car drivers respect them and respect the whole idea. Overall, the races are a little more stylized than I would like in this kind of movie. And the biggest issue I had with this is that I've already seen Ford v Ferrari about 10 times, and I love that movie. So a lot of times watching Gran Turismo, I'm like, I really want to be watching Ford v Ferrari right now. I think the story in Ford v Ferrari is a lot better. I think the races are a lot better. And the action in Ford v Ferrari is a lot better, because in Gran Turismo, you have the cars racing and it's all stylized and cameras moving around, a lot of drone shots, and it looks cool, but they constantly have to put little icons of what place they're in the race. In Ford v Ferrari, they didn't have to do that. The filmmaking was so good that you got that, without the crutch of that. And that, that's not to say Gran Turismo sucks. It's still good, but it's an obvious comparison between the two. If you're going to do a remake of Wizard of Oz, you're constantly going to be compared to Wizard of Oz, whether that's fair or not. But as it is, the movie's still pretty good. David Harbour is really good. The relationship between him, Orlando Bloom, and Archie the relationship between the three of them is really good. Might have teared up a couple times. I mean, it's, Lifetime kind of tearing up, like this movie's manipulating me, but you know what? Screw it. I'll go with it.
So again, it's directed by Neil Blomkamp, and he is a lifelong video game enthusiast, like you mentioned, Halo, and he's also has a lifelong passion for mocap and all that stuff. Did you see you said the movie stylized? Is it stylized because it's based? I know it's a true story, but it's based on the video game. Did you try to make it a video game stylized kind of movie?
Sort of. So like that. So there, like, for instance, there's a scene where Jan's in the race, and then all of a sudden, like, the camera's back behind the car, and all of a sudden the car starts breaking up, like what do you call that? Like when you look up directions and they have the exploded view of something so you can see what all the parts are. The car does that, and then the background switches, and then the exploded pieces disappear, and all of a sudden now he's in his room playing Gran Turismo. So it's done in such a way to, hey, he's back to basics, having fun like he did back in his bedroom playing Gran Turismo. So it's got stuff like that, but also like when he's passing someone, there'll be like he'll have a 14th ahead of him, and then he passes someone, and that 14 turns into a 13. so you know what place he's in. And then the drone shots, I assume they're drone shots. They did have a helicopter in there, so maybe it's helicopter shot. I don't know. But the drone shots kind of zipping around the track. Yeah, it's just kind of stylized in that way. It's a little too flashy for me, but it works for what it is. The reason I say it's too flashy is because Ford v Ferrari exists, and that's less flashy but more effective, I think.
So that is Gran Turismo, only in movie theaters August 11th specifically, again, based on a true story. Like Eric said, Eric, what is your rating on Gran Turismo?
I probably give this 3.5, probably a 3-star. I'd give it if Ford v Ferrari didn't exist, this would probably be a 4-star movie. But again, it's not as good as that, and it kind of leans on a couple tropes. One interesting thing, and they mentioned this at the end credits, Jan Martinborough, the actual person that Archie plays was the stunt driver in this. So that was kind of a cool little thing. I didn't know that till the end credits, but once that got brought up, it was like, oh, that's cool. And wonder if I can watch it again and see if I can point him in there. Although they probably CGI'd his face out. Who knows?
Well, thank you, Eric Holmes, for actually at your local theater watching. Please keep on doing these sexy, big commercial movies. Yeah, they continue to do this.
They've been doing those. I haven't got to see Last Voyage of Demeter. I'll definitely be watching that by next week, but okay, they did one of those for the this week too. I missed the screen because I saw it too late, but they've been doing a lot of those, so hopefully I'll be able to. We'll see. Okay, so that's 3 stars from Eric Holmes for Gran Turismo. Next up is, it's not a racing movie, it's a pod movie. It's called The Pod Generation, in theaters August 11th. This movie, it's set in the near future. There's a woman played by Emilia Clarke, I believe. She, the mother of dragons from Game of Thrones, and she, corporate girl. Maybe she's doing marketing. I don't know. She's part of this team that they're doing this. They have the pod thing. They do this like Alexa. It's a near future where everything is ruled by voice activation or Alexa or Google Home. So we're actually living in that moment right now. But in the near future, there is a technology where you can actually have a baby via a pod baby that will be delivered, and the woman can actually work at her various whatever career she has. So that's a plus in tech wise. But the problem with the pod generation is Emilia Clarke's husband, Alvy, played by Chiwetel Ejiofor. Chiwetel, he's a botanist. He's a professor. He loves things that are tangible. He has in their beautiful, I guess, is it an apartment? It's like sort of a penthouse apartment. It's a nice little area. They live in the city. He has a whole section cordoned off by a sliding door where it's just him and his plants. So he's all about the analog. He's all about things that you can touch and you can feel. The problem is his wife, Rachel, again, played by Emilia Clarke, the fact that she's part of this whole technological age where everything is activated and AI'd and everything is pretty much digital. They don't even feel the need for plants. She doesn't feel the need for it. So then when she decides to actually have a baby, she wants to have a pod baby in the pod generation. And that's where the conflict ensues between the husband and the wife. And then maybe it's written and directed by Sophie Barths, and it's the distributors Vertical and Roadside Attractions. The main conflict is, will the wife and husband get along, and will they have that baby and really actually merge together as one family or not? And then also the sort of antagonist is technology, when it comes to birthing, is it sort of an infringement upon our humanity? Running at 109 minutes, that is the pod generation. Let us go with, actually, Eric Holmes, you're just 10 minutes in. What is your little feel for the pod generation? A little further than 10 minutes in. I kind of like the idea. It's a what do you call it? I don't know. It's something like a meditation. It's a reflection. It's the drama. It's maybe a reflection on like AI. It seems to be. I mean, I'm only halfway through, so that really shouldn't even be speaking on this. But from what I see so far, topical. It seems to be kind of like how Don't Look Up was about global warming, even though in the movie the actual plot was a meteor coming to Earth, but that was stand-in for global warming. This seems like the pod babies are stand-in for AI, or whatever that word is I'm looking for. But I'm digging it so far. But curious to hear what you guys have to say about it. You're like 15, 20 minutes in, maybe 20 minutes in. I'm probably about like 40 minutes in. Okay, 40 minutes. I'm gonna not try to be cheeky about this, but I love Emilia Clarke. She's good in whatever she's in. I'll watch her. I love Chiwetel Ejiofor. They make a good couple. They are good actors. I was absolutely bored to my skull with this movie. Absolutely, I was looking for some kind of visual arresting moments, great composition.
I was looking for a sense of pace, a sense of tension, or a sense of immediacy, or just, I'm going to use sense again, a sense of interest, which I did not have. The issue I am very interested in AI and ChatGPT and topical matters, having babies in a pod, very interesting. But the way this is handled by Sophie Barths, I think, is just a little bit too on the nose and too, for me, much of a slog. That's as kind as I'm going to get for the pod generation. Bruce, maybe flip it over and disagree with me and tell me how brilliant this movie is.
I don't disagree with you much. I guess put it this way. In the same way that Gran Turismo suffers because Ford v Ferrari exists, this suffers because Black Mirror exists. We have, 5 seasons of Black Mirror, all about near future technology that's almost where we are, but a little bit further, and kind of looking forward to see what the difference would be. And there's a bunch of problems with, I think, this presentation of the future, because you're trying to do social satire and social commentary by, amplifying a slightly in the future. But the problem with that is you got to go a couple ways with it. You have to either go very hard and very sharp and very cutting, or you have to go very bold like Verhoeven does, where it's so bold and crazy, and something like Starship Troopers that people think like, well, this is a great action movie about killing evil bugs, when he's actually telling you about the fascists that are your heroes in the movie. And that's the satire. This movie, I don't think it has much of a point of view. I think it's very simplistic. And you said on the nose, and I think you're kind of right there, Greg, because part of the problem with this is, how can you have a movie that's talking about the future, and the main point of the movie is pregnancy, where they have an egg that's like this electronic pod run by a company and all the things that would go in there. And in the present world, birth rights and women's rights is such a big deal right now that you kind of just ignore that. I mean, there are so many things you could cover with this sort of thing. I mean, Brave New World was right there. There's a lot of things you can do here, and it doesn't go, it's basically just a relationship pregnancy drama when it gets down to it, and not a very interesting one, because there's really no conflict in this movie. That's the problem.
I just think, yeah.
What is the conflict? Think about it. What is the conflict? That he kind of wants to have a baby one way and she wants to have a baby another way, but they still want to have a baby? That's like pretty weak,
I mean, even the execution, the Chiwetel Ejiofor character should be so interesting, because he's all about the botany, he's all about the plants, he's all about the soil. And the way it's just executed, I just think it's just in a very laborious and boring fashion.
It could be a comedy. This could be like a Mike Judge level comedy if they wanted to go for it and be hilarious and really, really cutting.
Or Bruce, to your point, it could be literally a cutting B level thriller. It could have been that. Could have upped the stakes. It's just a level playing field of blandness, unfortunately. That's how I feel about the pod generation. Yes.
There's one point, and I'm not going to spoil it in case Eric does want to watch it and anyone else wants to watch it. There's a point towards the last third where there's a conflict between them and the company. And that little idea could have been a kernel of an actual movie. And even that's not played out. And you know what I'm talking about? There's a conflict they have with the company. That idea is kind of interesting. Like, if you're having this baby and you're using this pod, like who actually owns the baby? Like there's some stuff there that's going on, which could have been a technological future thriller right there. Nope. They just kind of let that go too.
I was telling Eric Holmes he really wants to finish this movie. Being so negative, I go, Eric, you can let it go. But I think Eric's going to finish the pod generation, and maybe he'll give a quick recap next week on our rewind regarding the pod generation. Let's go with ratings for this movie, again in theaters August 11th, starring Chiwetel Ejiofor and Emilia Clarke. What's your rating, Bruce?
I'm going to give it 2.5, mostly because I thought the performances were good, and I did like some of the world building there. I thought that the story within the world building wasn't very great, but the world building itself was kind of interesting. So 2.5.
2.5 stars for Bruce and 1 star for me for the pod generation. Just did not work for me at all. 109 minutes. What did you put?
I put 4 on the Google Docs.
That's funny. 4 stars.
I hate this movie. 4 stars.
That's so funny, Eric. Eric was very, very funny. I like that. You should actually just leave it there. I'm kidding. No, please put 1 star, a generous 1 star for me regarding the pod generation. How mean was I on this movie? Yeah, it's 109 minutes, I want actually 110 minutes back because I want an extra minute because I'm being greedy. I want more of my life back. Okay, so for the Pod Generation, that's 2.5 stars for Bruce Purkey. Yes, Eric Holmes.
Greg, so
Yeah.
1 star,
Uh-huh.
1 star rating for most
Miserable.
reviewers
Miserable.
would be, don't watch that. That's got to be a terrible movie. A Greg 1-star
Yes.
movie. I wonder how many listeners are like, Greg
No.
gave it 1 star. I have to watch this. Greg
Okay,
never
well, if
gives
you have
anything 1 star. I have to watch this to see how it is.
You know, after the passing the last couple of years of Peter Bogdanovich and William Friedkin, you know, people we love, Scorsese and De Palma down the road, they're getting older. I'm never gonna be at their level, but my life has been enriched by their works. Orson Welles. I'm going to be a little bit more cranky old man now. So I think it started, like Bruce said, I was broken by the Pod Generation. The mean Greg from CinemAddicts has now come out from 2014. I started off with being appease me, Greg, the silent partner of Anderson Cowan from 2015. I'm actually breaking out a little bit more, and I'm going to be a little bit meaner. So the kind angels will be Bruce Purkey and Eric Holmes moving forward. And let's see, maybe there's a little bit of kindness from Eric Holmes regarding this film called Jules, which is out August 11th in theaters. I believe, speaking of cranky old men, I think Ben Kingsley plays a crotchety, not geezer, but just a cranky guy, and he encounters an alien, and that's the premise of Jules. Is it a movie that's worth watching? Eric, you take it away for this one.
He's not really cranky. He's kind of dipping into dementia a little bit. He's just kind of not all there. But basically, yeah, a alien ship lands in Ben Kingsley's backyard, and he's it starts off there at one of those meetings, those neighborhood meetings where you go up and say, hey, we need a stoplight on the corner of First and Center because there's a lot of crashes there. All right, noted. And then they go, and someone else comes up, goes, yeah, there's trash men come by on Saturdays, and they should come by earlier so I can blah blah. Whatever grievances you like city council meetings, I guess. It's like one of those. And Ben Kingsley keeps going up talking about the same thing every time. And one day, an alien lands in his backyard. And he goes up and gives his normal grievances that he's been given and being ignored about every time. And he's like, oh, and one last thing, an alien landed in my backyard and crushed my azaleas. Someone's going to have to come by and take care of that. And everyone's like, okay, he's nuts. He's friends with Jane Curtin and Harriet Sansom Harris. I think that's who it is. Let me check. Yes, her. And Harriet comes over, and I think she's got kind of a thing for Ben Kingsley, but she comes over and it's like, yeah, you shouldn't be saying that about the aliens. People are going to think you're nuts. Zoe Winters plays Ben Kingsley's daughter. She comes by and he mentions alien, and she's like, Dad, come on. I'm already thinking about putting you in the home. Don't make me do this quicker than I want to. No one believes him. So it's kind of an Alf situation where like the aliens back there, no one believes it at first, but then it comes to the point where Jane Curtin shows up and it's like, yeah, you want to keep this quiet because the government's going to be coming in and taking the alien and taking it away. And they're like, oh, damn, you're probably right. So then they're basically just hiding the alien from everyone at that point on, while the government is trying to find out where this alien landed and go find it. And it's really, it's really adorable, cute, kind of a comedy, it's got a little bit of drama, but mostly it's kind of just a cute comedy. And I think it might scratch certain itches. I love seeing Jane.
Yours?
Yeah.
Did it scratch your itch?
Yeah, because so with this one, when I get the screener for it, I was like, I don't know what this is, so I'll watch the trailer for it. Watch the trailer, and if you watch the trailer and go, this is the kind of movie I want to watch, it's exactly what the trailer promises. Really cute, really kind of funny if you're into that kind of humor. Ben Kingsley's really good. Jane Curtin, I love Jane Curtin. Harriet Sansom Harris. Like everyone in this is really great. But I wanted to point out Jane Curtin because I know she's been working a lot, but she hasn't been in things that I've come across. So it was good seeing her again. And I kind of want to see her in more stuff. Ben Kingsley's great, but he always is. That's nothing new. Harriet Harris, I'm not familiar with her, but I loved her character in this as well. And the alien who played the alien. I don't have that on here. Nuts. Oh, the alien Jules, played by Jade Kuwan. I'm not familiar with her either, but her as alien. I mean, she's mostly just stoic. She doesn't say anything. She's just kind of not even stoic, just expressionless face the entire time. But her character really worked. And yeah, this is a pretty high recommend, even higher if you're into this specific type of movie. I probably give this like 4.5. I really enjoyed this a lot.
4.5 stars from Eric Holmes for Jules. It's directed by Mark Turtletop. He is the filmmaker behind a movie I really loved, starring Kelly MacDonald, called Puzzle. If you've not seen Puzzle, Eric Holmes, it is a beautiful, beautiful layered film. So go look up Puzzle. Maybe that could be another one of these find your film type of journeys you can go on. So that is it for Jules. It's going to be in theaters on August 11th, starring headlined by Ben Kingsley. Should be really an interesting movie. Who knows? Maybe I definitely want to see this as well. All right, let's go to our. Well, no, wait, we have 2 more movies. Oh my God, there's a movie that all 3 of us actually saw. Oh wait, all 3 of us saw two of these movies. Bruce,
Yes.
Aporia, or Operation Napoleon? What do you want?
I say Operation Napoleon.
Wow, Operation Napoleon. I'm trying to remember what it was. I actually interviewed the director last week, and I was feeling that this is movie when I saw it, it's gonna be really fun, and I was not disappointed. Here's the thing. Here's a plot summary. It says Icelandic lawyer Kristen gets drawn into the vortex of an international conspiracy when she receives footage of an airplane wreck recently revealed by the melting of one of Iceland's largest glaciers. Well, what's revealed amidst this glacier is a Nazi plane with dead people in it. And there might be something else in the plane, or it might lead to some kind of treasure or conspiracy or whatever, MacGuffin. Who knows? All we know is there is a very bad human being played by, we talked about Game of Thrones. I forgot what his character was from Game of Thrones, but he was the one who was secretly in love, not secretly, who had a mad crush on the Mother of Dragons, that being Ian Glenn. Ian Glenn is very, very bad in Operation Napoleon. He leads a whole bunch of crew to find this plane out in the middle of this glacier in Iceland, and they want to really do badness to anyone who is in their way to uncover this plane. Now, what's interesting is the protagonist is this Icelandic lawyer, and it's played by Vivian. I'm going to look at her name, Ólafsdóttir, and she's not a superheroine. She's not a Lara Croft. She's not an MMA fighter. She's none of this. She's just a normal human being who is trying to actually take down this bad guy and find him somewhere in that glacier because he has her brother hostage. So she goes out there with another guy who is really well versed in this whole Operation Napoleon thing. So these 2 normal people try to take on this bad man and his minions for Operation Napoleon. Who will win? That's I'm not going to say who will win, but it seems like the odds are against these really wonderful Good Samaritans for Operation Napoleon. I ended up really loving this film. I thought it was a really good action film. Want a little bit more. Hopefully they do a sequel to this movie. Bruce, am I a little bit overshooting with my enthusiasm for this film?
Well, I don't know. I enjoyed this movie quite a bit too. I think that this movie really hits I think it hits a kind of movie that you don't get a lot these days. I mean, it's not as flashy or as fantastical as a Raiders or a National Treasure, but it kind of has that broad, adventurous appeal in a smaller package, like in a more of a lower budget version of that, and like I said, less fantastical. And it's not built as much on like big elaborate set pieces. But I think it still hits that kind of adventurous spirit, which I like a lot. And having this kind of every person get sucked into this and, in this Icelandic setting, which I found really fun. Mostly it seemed like real settings. Like I didn't see a ton of CGI in here. There was a little bit maybe in some airplanes and some stuff. But overall, I think it was pretty straightforward and pretty grounded and a little bit more violent than I expected. Like there are actual stakes early on in this. And what I thought was really fun and interesting about this movie, I don't know, it's fun. I keep saying that word. I'll have to stop. Eric's got me all paranoid about saying fun.
Fun and entertaining. Bruce, fun and entertaining are the same word, right? So it's a fine word.
Yes, yeah. And what I was thinking about this one too is interesting is you don't see this kind of movie often from a non-American or British perspective. Like you don't see this kind of movie from Iceland very often, right? So by seeing it from Iceland, our protagonists are Icelandic, or there's, I think, a British guy also that's involved, but the villains are Americans. The villains are all Americans. And I thought that was kind of interesting too. And I really enjoyed the adventurous aspects of it. And, you know, kind of the globe trotting, even it's a small area that they cover, there's still, you feel some breadth, and they meet interesting characters along the way, which is kind of a hallmark of these kind of shows. Have to gain a friendship of I won't say a person. There's a really colorful character they become friends and allies with towards the end of the movie. They have the stereotypical, but I still enjoyed it, old lady of exposition that they have to encounter at a little cabin at one point, who literally stops the whole show for like 5 minutes to give them a giant exposition dump and maps and all kinds of stuff. And she had all the documents in her basement. And I'm just like, okay, sure. We'll go with it. I think this is fun. And if you like this kind of movie and you're kind of like, there's never this kind of movie, I want this kind of movie, a little bit of Bourne in there too, a little bit. I think you could get a lot of fun out of this, especially as a streamer or to me, I think this is what I think of as like a Saturday night, the family's watching it kind of movie. This is very much that kind of movie, or a mom and dad kind of movie, because it's pretty safe.
I'll be honest. You were pretty much on point with this, Bruce, because if you think you've never seen Operation Napoleon, you've seen parts of it, but not strung together in this Icelandic type of adventure. It's just a weird mishmash of things, and I had a good time. I had fun watching Operation Napoleon. What about you, Eric Holmes, regarding this movie?
Oddly enough, this feels like an American remake of Compromat. And but at the same time, it's also the indie version of Red Notice. So it's like the worst version of Compromat, but the better version of Red Notice. So it's got kind
right
of
on that.
Got kind of this weird sweet spot. And I actually did like this quite a bit, even though I got Compromat vibes. And it's like, we talked earlier about the Gran Turismo and Ford v Ferrari. This kind of
hard though. Can we say that that's hard when you mention Compromat, because Compromat is an awesome. That's hard.
But I think where this doesn't fall into the Gran Turismo Ford v Ferrari thing is that this is kind of not Compromat. This kind of leans into Indiana Jones territory at times, and so it's kind of doing the thing of Compromat, just not as well. But then it's got this other thing that it is doing really well, so it kind of balances out. Without giving away the end, it does in a cliffhanger to suggest a sequel, which made sense because when I was getting close to it, I was like, this is starting to get into Indiana Jones territory. I'm totally here for it. So when it ended with that, suggesting a sequel, I don't know if there will be one. I hope there is, and I really want to see where they go with that, because now that this story's ended, I want to see the adventures continue. This is a weird one, because it was like, this is like a really bad Compromat, but it's a really good Red Notice. So it's kind of.
And you said you want to see a sequel.
You can't eat your cake and have it too, but this is a pretty good movie, I think.
All right, it's directed by Oscar Thor Axelsson. I have to put him up on the Find a Film feed or Deepest Dream YouTube channel, whatever. I got to put up a whole bunch of interviews, but I had a good time talking to him. And I'll be honest, if they do a sequel for Operation Napoleon and it's absolutely half-assed, I'll be okay with it, because I had such a good time the first time around. You had me at 100.
It'll be that one, and then we'll watch the sequel to that weird South Korean like robot sci-fi time bending movie too.
What was that one? All right, Alienoid. Yes, we love that. I really enjoyed Operation Napoleon. I know I give a lot of movies 4 stars, but this is right in my wheelhouse. Just 4 stars right across the board for Operation Napoleon. I definitely recommend it when it hits theaters and VOD this Friday, August 11th. Yes, Eric Holmes.
So just to clarify, this is not a regular Greg 4-star. This is new Mean Greg 4 stars. So
this is the Mean Greg. This is a new chapter. This is mean, like Greg, like seriously, Greg coming out being mean to movies. Okay, and I don't even care if I've interviewed the directors or actors. I'm going to be mean to movies. That every movie that takes away time from me to actually watching all of Orson Welles' movies and Bogdanovich's movies, I'm going to keep that in mind when I'm these movies. So again, listeners, that's my fault. Listen to Eric Holmes and Bruce Purkey. They're the kind ones. Let's hear Eric Holmes' kind rating for Operation Napoleon.
So I'm guessing I gave Compromat. I had to have given that a 5. There's no way I don't give that a 5. Red Notice probably would I give that like 1.5, 2, somewhere around there.
I gave it.
So this has to go.
probably.
This is like right in the middle. So actually 4 stars not bad, but I think I'll go 3.5. But I'll go 3.5. But 4 stars,
3.5.
Not but very good rating for Evil Mean Greg.
Okay, so Evil Mean Greg gives it 4 stars, 3.5 for Eric, and what for Bruce Purkey?
To keep the Game of Thrones connections going, this also includes the best almost Hodor character I would say I've seen in a long time. I will also give this
so good
3.5 stars.
A solid 3.5 for Bruce and Eric, and I give it 4 stars. This is a fun movie. This is VOD. If you have a couple bucks and it's a family film, just go check it out. It's very interesting. I who knows? Maybe you might even like it better than me, Bruce and Eric, or I don't know. I think I'm recommending it, and we're all recommending. If you guys have a problem with it, well, forget you guys. I just had a good time with Operation Napoleon. It's a fun movie. That Hodor character is fantastic.
And
yes,
in case I didn't say it enough time, Compromat. That movie's out. You can find it. Go watch it. That movie's awesome.
Also, mea culpa. Actually, Eric Holmes gets the sort of the protection shield because he actually recommended Compromat again. But it strikes to me and Bruce for not doing our job and saying Compromat is an awesome movie. It's been out for 7 or 8 months. Wherever it's streaming, go see it. Right, Bruce?
It's on my top of the year list still, so it hasn't dropped off.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. I thought for sure that would be a movie people forgot about, but yeah,
it will come back.
It's definitely one of the best of the year so far.
Speaking of stuff that we recommend, I'm just glad in our CinemAddicts Facebook group, by the way, that you guys can join our CinemAddicts Facebook group for daily movie recommendations and movie chatter. I'm just glad there are a bunch of people who actually like The Passenger, who's starring Kyle Gallner.
Mm-hmm.
I think Peter Beta gave it a good review. A couple of other people gave it a good. I think, did Ryan Smith see it? A couple of our other members saw The Passenger. Jimmy Chappelle, maybe. A whole bunch of people saw it and they really like it. Again, that movie's out right now on VOD digital, and definitely see it. Yes, Eric.
I should also mention, because I did not like Cobweb at all, but that movie, like, people are loving the crap out of that. So it's something to be said about that. I think I mentioned in the review that it might be an orphan first kill situation where I hated it, but people love it. And that seems to be exactly what Cobweb's doing. So good on Cobweb.
Do you remember the person on this trio who absolutely went crazy for Cobweb? Do you remember the person who really loved it?
I believe that was pre-evil angry Greg. That was 4-star.
Yes. I probably gave it 4 stars. I love Cobweb. Bruce, Eric's forgiven for Cobweb. Do you still stick by your review on Cobweb?
Yes, I stick by it.
I'm not saying I like Cobweb. I'm not going
like
back
a spider
and saying,
on Cobweb.
I'm not going back and saying, by the
Cobweb?
way, I love Cobweb now. I still hate the movie.
Oh, you do?
Yeah,
you were wrong about it.
I didn't like it. I'm just giving credit where it's due. I did not like Cobweb, but my opinion is not the end all be all. It's everybody's the consensus, and the consensus seems to be that people dig Cobweb. So good.
Yeah, because it's a brilliant movie. Bruce, you have one more chance to say Cobweb is a brilliant movie, just like I just said right now. You have the last chance.
I am like David Hedison's arm and head in the end of The Fly, and I am going to be eaten by a spider in a web. Yes, no, it sucks.
All right, now it sucks. Very good. Now, speaking of sucking, does Aporia suck?
Wow, that's a segue for somebody's review.
It's directed by Jared Moshe. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but Jared Moshe, and I apologize to Jared for this. He directed a movie called The Ballad of Lefty Brown, a Western that I really enjoyed some years ago. It stars James Caviezel from The Sound of Freedom. For James Caviezel, Eric and Bruce, they haven't gone to the theater to see Sound of Freedom. Any comments yet? Eric, why haven't you gone and seen Sound of Freedom?
There's a bunch of political annoying BS around it that I just would rather not deal with.
I tried to go, but all the seats had been bought out by empty people that weren't actually there. I didn't know what to do. So,
Okay, that is our segment for Sound of Freedom. I enjoyed the movie, by the way. No politics here. I guess we were just showing you. Tell us what you think of Sound of Freedom. You know what? We're now at Aporia, which is in theaters August 11th. That had its worldwide debut recently at the Fantasia Film Festival. Centers on Sophie, played by Judy Greer. She is drowning in grief after losing her husband. Her husband is played by Eddie Gathegi, and he's very good in this movie. Her husband is recently passed away, lifelong physicist, He, physics, passionate about physics and the sciences, really interesting fella. But he dies in an accident and she's really sad. The thing is, she learns that her good friend, or her husband's good friend, played by Payman Madi. Payman Madi, you might have seen him several years back for a movie that's critically acclaimed called Separation. I think it's called The Separation, I think it's called The Separation. Payman Madi, he plays the good friend of the husband. He actually confesses to her that he has a time bending machine, which can make, you don't travel in time. There's not a time travel machine. And I'm not going to spoil it what this time travel quote does, because it doesn't say it on the plot's summary. If you guys watch Aporia and you realize what this time travel-esque-ish machine does, it's very interesting. It can alter the course of events, alter the course of one's lives or the world's lives by using this machine and contraption. So that is a premise of Aporia. Sophie, what she does is she wants to the machine might be able to bring her husband back from the dead. That'll be interesting. So let's say, presumably so, let's say, what happens if her husband comes back from the dead and he learns about this machine? What happens to these three people? They start making decisions. Should they use this machine for the benefit of good or the benefit of their good? Or should they just leave this machine in mothballs and keep it a secret? All of these kind of questions come into play with Aporia. Again, it's directed by Jared Mushy. Very introspective, insightful film, which I had a very big problem with. Let's get to Eric Holmes. Your thoughts on Aporia?
I like this a lot. Which is weird because if I remember correctly, I didn't really care for the Ballad of Lefty Brown. But yeah, this is kind of a time travel movie, kind of not on the same level as Primer, but it's that kind of time travel movie. I think would be fair to say, just because the time travel machine they're making is basically in a room. And it deals more with I believe Aporia is pretty much a paradox. And so it deals with the paradoxical nature of time travel. It deals with a lot of my brain does not want to work today.
Moral implications, maybe?
Yeah, moral implications of time travel. I kind of wish we could get into spoilers with this, because there's one part they did kind of towards the end that the idea of that is just absolutely horrifying to think about and just completely broke my heart. I love like all the kind of little ideas of time travel that, the moral ambiguities of time travel you would have to contend with, like, oh, well, if we can kill this person with the time travel because they're a bad person and so we did this. Like, you have the grandfather paradox, obviously. You have the butterfly effect, obviously, but then they deal with oh, well, if we kill this person, then that'll help this person that's a good person, they're a bad person. But then there's like things that kind of unforeseen circumstances. One particular one, and the one that I thought was horrifying to consider was the
which you can't talk about right now,
Hamlet at the end. If you remember,
right.
All the stuff dealing with that. Not only is it embarrassing, but it's like, what happens if we change things now? Oh my God, this is just horrible and frightening. And I think overall, this is a pretty good time travel movie. It does some stuff that time travel stuff does that I've seen a million times. I think it inserted enough new ideas that I was still on board for. And also I thought it would have a different ending than it did. But again, that's all stuff I would have to spoil the crap out of. But overall, I really like this a lot.
Bruce, so I really enjoyed the performances of Judy Greer, Eddie Gathegi, and Payman Madi. As a trio, they work together, just talking about the benefits, the moral implications of time travel, just them making decisions. Maybe some of them don't like a certain decision and they're fighting and they're just talking about it. I love that dynamic. I love their performances. The third act for me, especially the final moments, I understood where the director wanted to go. I did not like that choice one bit. It did not stick the landing. In fact, the plane, once it got off the ground, it never landed for me. Did Aporia land for you as a film?
I'm in the middle on this one a little bit too, I think. I like to think of this one. So first of all, I'm not going to mention what it is, but there's a very basic question that people always ask. If you could go back in time, would you blank? And that's kind of one of the things this asks. Another way to look at this, I think, is to think of, this is the old thing about, I have a table and one leg is too short, so I cut the other three legs shorter, and now the other one's too long. This is kind of the time travel version of that, where you just can never get it right and you just keep messing up the table worse and worse and worse. I understand why they didn't, and it's kind of keeping it at a subtle, very emotional basis, and is kind of what they're going for here, and that is the movie. But I almost wanted it to unravel more drastically as it went, because it seems to me like this is definitely a genie in the bottle kind of thing, right? Once the genie's out, if you don't destroy the bottle or destroy the genie, it's going to keep getting used. And it's going to keep causing more issues. And it does kind of do that, but I don't think it goes kind of lightly with that. On the plus side, I agree with you. I think the relationships and the characters and the acting are all really, really good in this. And I think the situation's well played. It does have a lot of primer echoes as well. So I'm mildly enthusiastic about it. That's an oxymoron right there. I'm mildly enjoying it, but it still left something lacking for me overall. There was one, I can't say this either, but when they made choices and they started to make certain choices, I didn't understand why certain choices were made as opposed to other choices that could have had a bigger effect. And of course, the whole idea is if you did some of those choices that would have had a bigger effect, you might have a bigger reaction. But I had questions about the logic that the characters were employing, and it just seemed a little loose-ended for me there.
Almost as if we should have a spoiler discussion about this.
I think there's thunder behind you, Eric. And I think we have to end this very early. We can't do any Aporia spoilers, unfortunately, folks. Eric Holmes, here's a little trivia thing, because I just want to insert some trivia stuff. Do you remember the scene where Judy Greer, she's in a diner and she talks to a waitress and they go outside? They're having some kind of conversation in a diner and she's taking her order, and then they talk. They have like nice little conversation by the parking lot. Do you remember that, Bruce?
Yeah.
Oh, I think Eric, you're on mute, I guess. Yeah, you remember that, Bruce?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a diner. It's Weiler's Deli. It's right here in my neck of the woods. I used to eat there all the time, get the omelets all the time in the morning, and they had a really nice parking lot. And I always thought to myself, this is a really wide open parking lot. I grew up near that area. Oh, why do they never shoot here? Well, there's your answer. They actually shot that. Credit Jared and his crew for finding that beautiful deli as far as one of the movie locations. Right next to that, there is a place there's a workout place that's now called, I forgot the name. It used to be called Racquetball World. And I used to work out there and swim there. Did not play racquetball. I went to the locker room to change, and lo and behold, Frank Bonner from WKRP in Cincinnati was changing. I forgot what his name was, but
you saw Bonner's Bonner. You saw it.
I did not see Bonner's Bonner, but I think I don't know. I think he passed away several years ago. But he was one of the first stars I saw from when he played Herb, right? Herb from Frank Bonner. That was his name, Frank Bonner from played Herb in WKRP in Cincinnati. I love that show. I love that show a little bit more than Aporia. So let's final thoughts on this movie. Eric Holmes or Bruce, before we get to ratings, any final kind of thing? No, nothing from. What about you, Eric? Yeah,
I just think this is a really good, tight. I'd have to watch it again to kind of poke holes in it, but the idea, the time travel seems to make sense for the most part. Some of the fun stuff they did was, they'll go up to people they know, and though people don't know them because of the events that changed, they never met, but the person remembers meeting, or there's people that they've known for years because of people they've known for a long time, but because of the things that changed, the person time traveling doesn't know them, but they have to, the whole thing of they deal with patients. I don't know who my patients are. There's like a bunch of details in that I just don't see in other time travel movies, and this is just really well done. And I would love to talk spoilers on this, and I kind of want to watch it again just to kind of pick it apart a little more. Right now I'm going probably 4.5 on this, but this could climb for me, I think.
Eric Holmes, really love it. 4.5 stars for Eric Holmes for Aporia. I do suggest you make a friend, maybe he be Payman Mahdi, and you guys can build a machine together, Eric, and maybe travel back and find an alternate version of me and Bruce and spoilers with.
Mahdi's story,
he's amazing. Great story.
His character's story, the whole reason he built the time, I won't say it, but the whole reason he built the time machine and why it's moot is that that's just oh man. But then you see what happens, it's it's probably for the best, I guess.
Yep. Yeah. Bruce, your rating on Aporia.
I'm probably 3 stars on this one. I liked it a little bit, but not a ton. And I want to do, if I do Paimon, I'm going to make sure he involves, well, there might be some beheaded people in a little treehouse, and that's the kind of Paimon I'll be dealing with.
Okay, so that's 3 stars, a mild recommendation from Bruce Purkey, 4.5 stars from Eric Holmes. This movie, again, really enjoyed the performances. Loved what Jared was trying to do with the time travel element. For most of it, I really enjoyed the world building. Felt a little bit too long for me. The ending moment, which I think it works as a family drama, and I 100% understood that final moment. I was highly disappointed with the ending of Aporia. Like Bruce, I wanted it to unravel a bit more, and just I wanted the onions to be peeled, a little bit more layers to Aporia. For now, I'm giving it 2 stars for Aporia.
Oh, geez, evil Greg out in full force.
Evil Greg.
Yes, I am out on full force. Yeah, I think this is going to be a keeper for me. Now let's go. Oh, Pete, you're not mean. You're a great guy. You give us music for the show. What do you do every week, Pete? Bruce, what does he do every week? Peter Beta and his middle-class film class crew.
He softly slides the beat across the table.
Remove your hand from the box, and you die.
What's in the box?
Pain.
All right, guys, we're back. I have a thirst. No, I don't, because I haven't seen it. There's a movie called Thirst, reviewed by Bruce Purkey this week for What's in the Box. Eric Holmes is playing bass guitar on this review. Both of them have seen Thirst by Bong Joon-ho or Park Chan-wook. Director Park.
That's one of those two. You got it.
You know what? It's by Director Park, and I apologize. I still haven't seen Old Boy. I did see the better version, the Spike Lee version. I'm kidding. That's a joke. Bruce, you wanted to see
You've seen The Handmaiden. You've seen The Handmaiden.
That's a private
Decision
matter
to
that
leave.
I'll talk about. Oh, you mean the movie? Yes, I have. I love The Handmaiden, both the movie and the real life. Bruce Purkey, your thoughts on Thirst?
Thirst. So this is one of those movies I've seen floating around for a long time. Never got around to watching it. I like the director, and I just, for some reason or other, I just thought, oh, it's a vampire movie. I don't know.
Feels like it. Yeah.
Yeah. What am I going to do with this? 2009. Right now, I don't think it was streaming anywhere that I saw, or if it was nowhere that I not a streaming service I had, so I rented it for a few dollars. Definitely worth it, I think. The basic stars of this are going to be, we did mention, reiterate, it is Park Chan-wook, if you don't want to know for sure. The main character is Sang-hyun, played by Song Kang-ho, and you know him from pretty much every South Korean famous movie ever made. I mean, Host, Parasite,
Memories of Murder.
Memories of Murder.
Yeah.
He's been in tons of. He's one of those guys who'd be like, I know this guy. I've seen him before. And the main other star in this, there's several, but the main other one is Kim Ok-bin, and she plays Tae Ju. Basic concept of this is, first of all, if you haven't seen a lot of South Korean movies, one of the things you have to know about South Korean movies is they tend to do very interesting things with plot and narrative. They do not do the normal quote, American Western style necessarily of storytelling. So you have to be ready for it to be maybe dramatic, maybe sad, maybe romantic, maybe goofy and funny, all in the same movie about vampires. And you might have a story that goes all kinds of different places you're not expecting it to go. And I would say this is no exception to that kind of rule. Basic concept from the start of the movie, at least, is that you got your main character, Sang-hyun. He is a priest. And right off the bat, you see he's really into the real idea of what a priest should be, like sacrificing for his man and stuff, right? For a fellow person. And right out of the gate, he basically volunteers himself as part of this test, or this set of subjects that are trying to solve this, cure this disease. And they're basically, most of them are dying because they have not cured the disease. So they're basically letting themselves be infected with the disease to be cured, hopefully, but they're all dying. He somehow miraculously lives because he gets a transfusion of, unknown to everyone, vampire blood. Okay, sounds very cheesy B-movie kind of thing, right? So he's alive, and everyone thinks he's oh my gosh, he's a saint. He comes, come heal us, that kind of thing. And you're thinking, well, this movie's going to go that way, but not really. And then the first third of the movie, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but the first third of the movie basically is him coming to terms with what he is now, which is basically a priest that is kind of a vampire now. And how is he going to get blood when he doesn't like to hurt people and he doesn't want to hurt people? And how is he going to do things like, oh, I can't handle what I'm doing anymore. I'm going to throw myself off a building and, oh, guess what? I didn't die. Things like that. There's a lot of weird, interesting things in the beginning where he's just kind of figuring out like what he is now because he's not a human anymore. But the real crux of this movie is he meets back up with some people he's known in the past. There's a family that he had been friends with when he was younger. And they have a young woman who's like who is brought into their family. She's not a member of the family, but she was brought into their family, kind of abandoned. And now she's been in this family for so long that she's essentially paired up with the son of this family who she does not like very much. And she's kind of stuck in this relationship. Our main character comes into this family dynamic again. And you see that he and the woman who's in this stuck relationship have an instant attraction. And you think like, okay, I know what this is now. This is kind of a version of Twilight. It's a vampire and he's kind of falling in love with a human woman. And you think that's where it's going to go. And then it does other things. And when it starts doing other things, this movie, I think, becomes very surprising, very interesting, and not at all what I thought it was going to be at the end. And definitely the characters went places I didn't think they were going to go. I think it's a lot of fun if you are down for the kind of crazy sort of path that you end up going down. I think it's a lot of fun.
Before we get to you, Eric, Bruce, when people talk about Director Park's canon, thirst is at the bottom usually. Do you see why it's at the bottom, or is it unfairly at the bottom from what you've seen of his work?
I think I ended up enjoying this a lot more than I thought I would because I had heard it wasn't really there as well. I think part of the problem with this movie is a lot of his other movies, even though they have twists and turns, the overall like narrative thrust of the movie is pretty straightforward. You know, you got Old Boy and the Vengeance trilogy and its vengeance, and you've got the kind of Byzantine machinations of these characters in The Handmaiden. But you kind of know the basic idea of what that story is going to be. You know, there's going to be twists, but you understand there's people kind of working against each other and working behind the scenes. This movie, you're like, where's this vampire movie going? And I think what's really interesting about it is what makes it kind of awesome. And I think this kind of could be a rediscovered movie by him as people go back and rewatch it. I just have that sense. For me, I took it kind of at face value, and I thought it was pretty darn good.
Wow, rediscovered film. That'd be very interesting for Thirst. Eric, do you actually concur with Bruce's take on Thirst as well?
Yeah, I actually put it up higher. I'd put it like right under Lady Vengeance, which Lady Vengeance, I think of all Park Chan-wook's movies I've seen, Lady Vengeance has to be the top for me.
It's good.
But
it's very good.
But what I really like about this, and this is probably me looking too much into it, but Sang-hyun, he turns into a vampire. And when you're a vampire, you got to drink blood. You got to hurt people to live. And he's got issues with that. But how has he been treated by society? He's a priest. Everyone looks up to him. Everyone loves him. And so the idea of hurting humans is kind of foreign to him. He doesn't like it. When later on, when Taeju turns into a vampire, she's been crapped on her entire life by her own family. So the idea of we got to kill humans to live, she has no problem with that whatsoever. And I wonder,
the opposite of a problem. She's down with it.
she's like, we can't just kill humans. We got to live on blood, and we got to figure out a way. She's like, screw them. My whole life they've done nothing but just crap on me. So why do I care? But I think this is kind of almost the moral of this is treat people with respect, because if you don't, like, if society continually comes down on someone, or even like little parts of society, like families continue to push down on people and go against them, maybe one day when they get power over you, you're gonna wish you didn't do that. I mean, it's a simple moral rule. Don't treat people like crap, and they won't in return. But yeah, it's kind of an interesting morality tale to put into a vampire movie, and I think it's done really well.
So that's not a spoiler that she turns into a vampire? That's not a spoiler.
Oh, maybe. I don't think so.
Bruce?
To me, this isn't one of those kind of movies. I mean, you could say yes in the sense that you wouldn't know that, but I think this is one of those movies that doesn't rely on you discovering plot points, because I think the journey itself is odd and interesting, and just watching the characters and what happens to them, I don't think it really matters discovering that. You know what I mean? So
yeah. On top of that, early on, like they're kind of having a relationship, and it's brought up that, hey, do you want to become a vampire? So it's kind of the not so subtle foreshadowing of, hey, you're about to become a vampire later on in this movie. But
well,
I guess it could be a spoiler, but I mean, also this is a box movie. Hopefully people have seen this already, but
yeah. And the basic plot of most vampire movies is romantic, awesome male vampire meets human woman, and eventually she becomes his vampire bride, as some version of that. And the whole point of that is this subverts their relationship, because their relationship is not necessarily a successful one in the way you'd expect. Yeah. I don't point out one other thing before we leave it, and you usually expect some really great visual flares from this director as well. And I want to point out there's some really cool things that he does. There's a scene where they have this continuing motif early on that she is so sick of her life that she will run barefoot on the street at night. And there's a scene where he meets her after he's become a vampire, and she's running barefoot on the street at night, and he catches her mid-stride, and you just see the shot of their feet. He catches her mid-stride, and then he lifts her up, and he puts his shoes underneath her, and then then he puts her back down into the shoes, which is beautiful. Like just this beautiful poetic moment. And the whole idea of the shoes is played out to the very final shot, which is amazing. Probably the best use of shoes as a motif before Jojo Rabbit. And there's also one other really, really fantastic visual scene, and we'll stop. And that is, there's a scene on a lake where three characters are all involved in something, and they don't all quite know what's going to happen. And there's a fish hook involved. And I thought that was just fantastically orchestrated. It was really amazing.
Oh, and then the production design built into the plot of, hey, let's paint the inside of the house white.
Yes, that was so great.
That plot point that we're going to paint the inside of the house white too, and put up a bunch of lights to simulate daytime. That led to
great bloodletting.
Oh yes, a great action scene afterwards.
Okay, so that is Thirst. What is your rating, Eric Holmes, on it?
You know, if Lady Vengeance is 6.9, this one's going to be 5 stars.
5 stars on Thirst. What about you, Bruce?
I'm 4.5. I think it's really, really good too.
I remember, I'm not very proud of this. I think in the early aughts, well, no, not early aughts. Whenever this movie came out, I think I used to actually have all of Director Park's movies on DVD. And by then I had no idea any of these. I had Old Boy on DVD and all of this stuff. And I said, oh, these look like really gruesome horror films. I don't think I'll ever want to watch them. And I just traded them in. So I used to have all of these on friggin' DVD, I believe. And I now am trying to race against time.
Greg, you should, if you haven't already, you should watch Lady Vengeance.
Yeah.
Lady Vengeance. That one's really, really good. There's a scene, not to belabor this, but there's a scene where the whole point is that there's this person going around killing children. And Lady Vengeance captures this guy, and then she goes to get the.
I've seen
parents.
Lady Vengeance. I've seen it. You're right. Yes. Oh, and that's a good movie.
She's talking to the parents about and what are we going to do to the guy, and then the camera goes to the microphone, follows the microphone cord all the way down to the speaker, which is in another room with the guy tied up. Just listening to what the family's going to do to him. He's like, I messed up.
Yes, that's a great movie. I forgot. Yes, I did see Lady Vengeance. Very, very good. We're closing the show with a couple of things. A coming soon segment from Eric Holmes. Can you tell our listeners what to expect next week? What's coming out soon, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, so we got Deadshot. I believe that we're covering that next week. Also, I'm doing an interview on Friday with the co-writer and directors Charles and Thomas Gard. So I haven't seen Deadshot, so don't have any really big previews on whether it's good or not, but those are coming up. We got Birth, Rebirth. We'll be covering that. We will not be covering Blue Beetle unless one of you two see it, but that's a new Marvel DC movie, I'm sure. There's a movie coming out in limited release called The Moon. We have a movie coming out on Shudder on the 18th called Bad Things.
Ooh, and this one's a couple. I have a free screener for that. I could watch it if you want me to.
Do it to it, Lars.
It's up to you.
And then we have doesn't come out till the 25th. But I did start watching this. I got a screener and started watching it. It's called The Dive. That's coming out on the 25th. So that's not going to be for another couple weeks, but Dive's looking pretty good so far too. So yeah, hopefully we got some bangers coming. We'll know for sure next week.
I think the Guard directors, I think they're brothers for Deadshot, and I guess you're interviewing them on Friday. You don't have too much time because it's already Wednesday as we're recording this, but they did in 2009, they did a movie called The Uninvited, starring Emily Browning and Ariel Cabell. And that's a very interesting movie because I believe it's a remake of what people say is a much better film.
The Uninvited, isn't it Ray Milland, or who's in that one?
Yes, very good, Bruce. I used to actually have a VHS copy of The Uninvited. Love that movie, but no, this is a completely different movie. Same name. It's called The Uninvited. Came out in 2009. If there's any way you could,
Elizabeth Banks, David Strathairn.
Yes, yes, Elizabeth Banks.
You know what? These movies, I'll try to fit that in between then.
Because here's the thing: there's some really cool things you can ask them about. Whether you love it or not, there is something that happens in the third act, which you'll either buy into or you're going to say, oh, and it'll really color the interview. So I don't know if you have time, because you have to see stuff, see Deadshot. So next week, we're going to cover Deadshot for CinemAddicts, and we're also going to cover another film called Birth, Rebirth, which stars Marin Ireland, who I just love as an actress. I'm so excited. She's front and center in this movie with Judy Reyes from that TV series Scrubs. Always liked her as an actress. So I think that's another Shudder release, Bruce, that we just got, or an AMC Plus release. We just got that on your emails. Check your emails, because I think you guys got that as well. So Deadshot and Birth Rebirth is we're covering next week on CinemAddicts. And then before we go, we have a box pick from Bruce Purkey. What's in the bleeping box? Yes. What's in the box? What's in the bleeping box?
What is a box?
It's a movie suggested by my son, so you know what that means.
Oh no!
It means you'll be going solo next week.
Exactly.
I will be watching Matilda the musical on Netflix.
Oh, good for
Matilda. Is that still on Netflix?
If it isn't, I'll probably be renting it, which is even worse. Misery.
Because I know with the streamings, they've been in the recent strikes, they've been taking stuff off the streaming stuff. So.
Well, we'll see.
You may have lucked out. Who knows?
Or I may be paying for it.
Oh,
twice. Which paying?
Once out of pocket, once by virtual watching
and mentally.
Which again, CinemAddicts Patreon members, thank you so much for your patronage. If anything, at the base level, it helps pay for our digital purchases that we have to review for CinemAddicts. So we appreciate you, Patreon members. We appreciate you, listeners, for CinemAddicts, for just supporting our show since the year 2015. And unfortunately, the bad news is kind, acquiescent, obsequious Greg Strzavosty has now been taken over by what, Eric Holmes?
Evil Greg has taken over. We'll just call him Evil Greg. One star Greg is in full force.
Is that the right modifier, Bruce the Butcher? Is Evil Greg a perfect moniker, or do you have anything else to add to the mix, to the brimstone?
That's good. E.g. Evil Greg. Yeah, I'd go with that. Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, we got to find a nickname for you, Eric Holmes. Maybe we'll call our buddy, our co-creator, Anderson Gowan, to give you a moniker.
Vanilla Holmes, I believe, is a thing.
Oh, Vanilla. I know Vanilla. Well, how did that moniker come about, the Vanilla Holmes?
Because I got a potty mouth on Finder Film, and when we switched to CinemAddicts, right. I had to debase that quite a bit.
Yes. Well, I mean, even thanks. By the way, when you do the interviews, thank you for cleaning it up. I don't have to actually edit you on the YouTube videos that we do. And by the way, speaking of YouTube videos,
Vanilla Holmes likes to appease. That's what I'm all about.
Until Eric becomes EE in about a couple of episodes, I'm gonna try to hopefully maybe in a couple of weeks the only good person in this trio will be Bruce Purkey. Stay tuned to see if Bruce becomes or Eric becomes evil in the future episodes of CinemAddicts. As per usual, final thoughts from Bruce Purkey.
Two thoughts. One is maybe it could be Eric bigger than John Holmes. That would be one thing it could go by. He said yes, absolutely, not even close.
Like less than a fraction.
And I apparently Evil Greg did all of the offending of the movie gods, because I made it to the end of the show without getting struck by lightning. So thank you, Evil Greg.
Re-
got
re-
struck
real quick.
by EG.
If you ever heard of squirrel nut zippers, I'm the first.
You've been struck by. You've been hit by EEG.
Okay, guys, we'll see you next. I know I got it. See you next week here on CinemAddicts. Thank you, guys.